Welcome, cooks, to the Recipe Vault. Actually, a day late because we have fun over the 4th of July weekend, so you're getting this one day late. Today, we are pulling a recipe that came from a vault from Arizona. We are making potatoes Boulangere. This is an interesting recipe because there's some variations. The recipe here has got some issues. So I'm going to Amyfy it. I'm going to show you how to refine it, make it more classic, and it's going to be fantastic. It's a take on the au gratin potatoes, but we're using stock, so it could be dairy-free, but this recipe is fantastic. So welcome to the Amy Learns to Cook kitchen. So potatoes Boulangere. This is a dish that some people say it's French. Some people say it comes from all over Europe. So I don't think there's like a true answer to where this dish came from. But usually we're used to potatoes au gratin. So it's potatoes and a cream, dairy sauce with a bunch of cheese over the top. This is basically the same kind of concept, but we're going to be using chicken stock. I've got some homemade chicken stock. You can just use it, from Better Than Bouillon or out of the box, right? But if you have fresh chicken stock, it will be that much more delicious, right? Mm-hmm. So the key to this is to get your potatoes sliced really thin. And you will wonder why I always sing the praises of the Breville. And one of the reasons is because it has an adjustable blade. So you don't have a food processor that only comes with one blade and you got to buy all these blades for it, right? To make your food processor more usable, right? The Breville has a really great adjustable blade that goes from 0.3 millimeter and it has 24 settings up to 8 millimeters. So we want it to be around 3 to 4 millimeters. So I'm going to do it both the onions and the potatoes at about 3.5. So we're going to be right in between 3 and 4. We're going to be on a 3.5. That's what I'm going to be doing with this. If you don't have a food processor that has this kind of variable adjusting, or you don't have a blade that slices that thin, you can always use a mandolin. Definitely a great way to go. Another thing that's great about the Breville is we have a wide feed tube. We don't have to worry about issues with having to cut our potatoes down. We will get perfect slices. So the very first thing we want to do is slice the onions. Then we're going to be cooking the onions in butter and we're going to be flavoring the broth with some herbs. Then we're going to slice the potatoes. That's because we don't want to keep those potatoes in water to keep them from browning, because we want to keep that starch in there. That starch is going to help make it yummy, right? So let me get our onions and we're going to do that part first. So one thing that's interesting about this recipe from the Recipe Vault is it wants you to slice the potatoes a 1/4 inch thick. That's too thick to me. And it also doesn't talk about cooking the onions. There's sort of back and forth about whether or not you cook the onions. If you really have a light, tender onion, you could probably get away with not doing that, but I don't have that. We're cooking the onions and a lot of people do that way. So, let me go get the onions and let's get this underway. Okay, let's rock and roll with the onions. I have it set at a 3.5 millimeter on the blade. I'm going to go ahead and give us a little power here. I've got the onion. I had a huge onion, so you want to use one big onion or a couple smalls. I just cut this one like this because we're going to be slicing it. Ideally, you would use a white onion. I didn't have any, but these grew so big that they're not super harsh. Yeah. Yeah. So those are our onions. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to put these onions into this bowl here. And we're going to be setting this food processor aside because I want to cut the potatoes just when we're ready to make the casserole. So, next up, cooking the onions and flavoring our broth. Okay, let's cook up our onions. So we're going to put a couple tablespoons of butter in here. These are going to be butter braised onions. Woo. This is an all-clad French skillet. You didn't see that. So we're going to be cooking these down. We want them softened. We're not like cooking them for an hour to a caramelized state, but we're going to let them cook maybe for 5 minutes. I'm going to maybe slap some more butter in here, maybe cook them about 10 minutes. So we'll be back. I put another little slice of butter in here, and the onions are softening and browning a little bit. They're looking amazing. So I'm just going to cook them for a few more minutes and we'll move on to the broth. Okay, so these onions are looking mighty fine. I'm going to go ahead and take them out, put them in a little bowl here. They smell fantastic. I love sauteed onions. It's a base of every good meal, right?
Right. With a generous amount of butter.
Yeah. The butter doesn't hurt the situation. Okay, for the stock, we're using homemade stock. I made this yesterday. We want a couple cups in here. This has a lot of gelatin in it. Whoa, yeah, it's very gelatinous. So it's going to be amazing. It's going to have that mouthfeel. I don't think I need too much more than 2 cups, huh?
No,
Well, I'm not sure. They call for 1 cup in the recipe vault. My baking dish, I don't know, it depends on the potatoes. I might need 2 of them. I'm going to season this up with some herbs. I have some fresh thyme. We picked this thyme out of the garden. We also chopped some fresh rosemary. And we have some fresh parsley from the garden. So I make my chicken stock. I don't, wow, that looks beautiful. Turn to green. I don't put salt in it. So I'm gonna salt it up now. And it's probably gonna need quite a bit. Pepper, fresh ground. Since I have so many herbs in there, I could flavor a little bit more of this broth just for my own giggles.
Make some tasty rice with that?
Yeah. If I do put the rest of this in here, I have enough herbs in there to make me some tasty tasty rice. Gonna need a lot more salt. More pepper. Sometimes you can make double duty dishes just by doing that. So I'm gonna squeeze some fresh peeled garlic. Eric peeled this for me. I'm gonna use my garlic press. Give us some really good flavor on this. A lot of garlic flavor. Put however much you want in there. And I'm just going to let this steep and warm up and get delicious. So we'll be back. Okay, so I think based on how the onions came out, I'm going to switch this to a 3. So we had 3.5 on the onions, 3 on the taters. And I'm going to go ahead and start slicing. Uno, tater.
Okay. So how's that look to you? Does that look thin enough, Amy?
They're not paper thin.
Do you want to make it a little more thinner then? 2.5 maybe?
I'm going to drop this baby down to 2.
2. All right.
I love playing with the food processor. Okay, so those are looking mighty fine right there, Breville. And we're just gonna pour our taters into here. Now it's time to make the casserole for the oven. Okay, so I'm gonna take some butter and softened butter. We're gonna butter all around this dish. I don't know, I might be using 2 of these dishes. I'm not 100% sure. That's why I used that glove. Okay, so let's start putting some taters in here. So really the only tater layer that you need to be like designed anyway really is the top. Sometimes you'll see people, they'll layer constantly, but you're not really going to see that. And once you cut it, it's going to be like, okay, whatever, right?
So in other words, the pretty layer needs to be the visual one at the very top.
Yeah. So we got that. We're going to put us some onion, sprinkle-dee-dee-dee. Going to put a little bit of chunks of butter here. Why not, right? Why not? Just a little butter. Just a little baby butter. And we're going to layer some taters We got some taters. We got some taters. And some taters. And some more taters. There you go. Looking good. Sprinkle onion. Yeah, you see my fingers in it. If you don't like that, then don't do it. Whatever, right? A little bit of Boulangere. A little more taters. Kind of need to make this level. So I have a few areas that aren't level. And we got some onion. Yum. Okay. 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 Butter. And this is where we're going to get fancy. So we're just going to layer potato around like this so we can be fancy like. Fancy, fancy. Got a little hole there, fancy. Fancy, fancy, fancy. Fancy. And we're going to go fancy here. Is that the technical term for it? Bougie. These are the potatoes that are going to get crispy on the top.
And they're going to be the ones you're going to see.
Yeah.
If you got some that looks like they've been cut by a rip saw, those go on the bottom.
Put one in the middle. So we're going to take our stock here, and we're going to go ahead and pour. I don't know. You might need like a cup and a half of this. 2 cups maybe. You want stock in there, but the top ones won't be in stock because they're the ones that are going to crisp up. That's like 1 cup. I think I should put a little more. I mean, I don't want the water to not go away, and then I have potato soup up in here. I'm gonna take a little bit of the herbs out of here, if I can get some of them, because they all seem to be at the bottom of the soup or stock here. That looks good. So I'm going to take some butter and dabble it. Little pieces of butter here and there. How about that, Bill?
Butter makes the world go around.
It sure does. So I'm going to sprinkle a little salt on these top. This is some sea salt. I didn't do it between the layers because I didn't want to over salt it because I had salted the broth. I'm going to give it a little spray of olive oil just to keep these potatoes on the top from drying out. So we're going to let this go in the oven. Literally, it's going to take maybe an hour. We'll see. Some people go an hour and 15, hour and 30. We're going to start with an hour and see how it is. I'm at 375 on convection. If the potatoes are all soft on the inside, I might crank that heat up to get some browning on the top, but I'll let you know if I did that. So when this is done, we'll be back. So cooks, potatoes boulangere. We pulled this recipe out of the recipe vault. This one came from Arizona. And when I first read it, I knew that there were some changes that I wanted to make to it. I wanted to bring in way more flavor. I wanted to bring in some fresh herbs. I wanted to saute those onions. I wanted to use fresh stock. So we really took this recipe from here and updated it to my taste. It looks amazing, right? We have all those fresh herbs. We have all those crispy potatoes on the top. The water just, the stock just absorbed and softened all the potatoes. And it looks amazing. So my suggestion is if you have some of these old recipe boxes, like I've said in the past, go ahead and make your changes because tastes are a lot different. We use a lot more fresh herbs. We use a lot more seasoning. And me and Eric were just talking about that because you also have to remember, I'm going to put a little grind sea salt on the top. You have to remember that the home cooks just learned from, passed down from the generations, from the neighbors, friends, whatever. We have access to a lot more information about professional cooking, professional level cooking, like developing fond, bringing in all those rich flavors, bringing in, we have herbs.
Layers of flavor.
Layers of flavors, herbs and spices coming from all around the world. We have access to things that they just didn't have access to.
Butter versus shortening. They use shortening, we use butter. There's a difference.
Yeah. So, how are we going to cut this? It's nice and soft and tender.
All I can say is don't get sheep.
Don't get sheep. Wow. I don't think this is going to come out as a piece of pie. Beautiful. That was a perfect amount of juice there on the bottom. Just left it kind of juicy. Wow.
We cooked it just under 90 minutes.
Yeah, so it was in the oven for 90 minutes. That's how long it took for all that liquid to absorb up in there. And
the crispiness, the browning happened in the last maybe 10, 15 minutes.
So my suggestion, if this is taking 90 minutes, make this, put this in the oven, then prepare a roast chicken, whole roast chicken, throw that in the oven, then give that about an hour in there, and give this 90 minutes. It's not a pie, so it did fall apart on me.
I'll give you a little spoiler alert, boo-boo. It's kind of tasty.
It's freaking amazing.
And I'm not talking like that boxed gratin stuff that you just add water either. This is better.
Time for the real true taste. So we have those sauteed onions, the crispy potatoes, the nice soft potatoes. This recipe is knocked out of the park. There's so much flavor from the fresh chicken stock. There's so much flavor from those herbs.
Those are the two things I'm really picking up on.
This is fantastic. 100%, no doubt. You can say, oh, I don't know, you just fry potatoes. It's faster.
The onions are in there.
This is so good. This is so good.
You got the crispy top with the softer layers, not dried out.
The recipe vault hit it out the park with our help, right? I'll add those changes that I made on the website. I just spilled it on myself. I'm on my way to finish these potatoes. You are going to love this recipe. Thanks for joining me.